Take it away, Vargas.
Tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your animals.
Ask me about my animals.
And then you tell your
There's a
animals.
dolphin and an elephant. Tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your
I
animals.
tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your animals.
Dolphin and an elephant. I tell you about my dolphin.
Tell me about your dolphin.
I tell you about my dolphin.
Dolphin.
He's a big, fat fish. I tell you about my elephant.
Tell me about your
I
elephant.
tell you about my elephant.
Tell me about your elephant.
He's like a cow. I tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your
I
animals.
tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your
A
animals.
dolphin and an elephant. I tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your animals.
I tell you about my animals.
Tell me about your
A
animals.
dolphin and an elephant. I tell you about my dolphin.
Tell me about your
I tell
dolphin.
you about my dolphin.
Tell me about your dolphin.
Blue and yellow. I tell you about my elephant.
Think about your
I
elephant.
tell you about my elephant.
Dolphin.
He's a elephant. I tell you about my animals.
Stop the pulling once.
I tell you about my animals.
And use my hand.
Dolphin. Tell you about my animals.
Stop the pulling once.
I tell you about my animals.
Use my hand.
I have a neighbor. I tell you about my neighbor.
Tell me about your
I
neighbor.
tell you about my neighbor.
Tell me about your neighbor.
Well, he's a fish from the sea. I tell you about my neighbor.
Tell me about your
I
neighbor.
tell you about my neighbor.
Tell me you my neighbor.
He is a she. I tell you about my
I
neighbor.
dropped the bullet once.
I tell you about my neighbor.
And use my hand.
He lives in the air and he has no hair. Tell you about my neighbor.
I dropped the bullet once.
I tell you about my neighbor.
And there's the hand.
He drives a car.